Now, Ernst Young were the external auditors of the Post Office from 1986 to 2018 for the entire period of the scandal. As part of their statutory duties, auditors are required to state whether, in their opinion, adequate accounting records have not been kept or returns adequate for audit have not been received from branches not visited by them. The company did not keep proper accounting records, as I just said earlier. So despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary, Ernst Young said that they were satisfied. How on earth could they be satisfied? They picked up 1.8 million in fees in the previous 2 years. Was it all to do with money? And it's not the first time that we are talking about the role of auditors, my lord. There are numerous scandals. I have published a lot of academic and other research on this. So Ernst Young knew that the accounting system was deficient. That much is clear from a 36-page post office report, which I have here, which is publicly available, and its title is Horizon - Responses to Challenges Regarding Systems Integrity. It is dated 2nd August 2010. It is written by a gentleman by the name of Rod Ismay, who's the head of product and branch accounting at Post Office. Mr. Ismay joined Post Office in 2006. After 11 years, guess who he worked for? Ernst Young. He was from that particular firm, now liaising with the auditor. The report is very concerned about the court cases and adverse press reports. I first became aware of this scandal in 2009 from an item in an accountancy magazine, and I have kind of followed it and noted with considerable dismay that nobody actually homed in on auditors or corporate governance. It was all about the systems and everything else. So on page 19 of the report, here is a paragraph which we need to take note of. It's in quotation marks. Ernst Young and Deloitte, they've been involved in some capacity, are both aware of the issue from the media, and we have discussed the pros and cons of reports with them. Full stop. Both would propose significant caveats and would have limits on their ability to stand in court. Therefore, we have not pursued this further. Okay, next paragraph, again quote. The external audit that E&Y, that's Ernst Young, performed does include tests of POLs, that's Post Office Limited's IT and finance control environment, but the audit scope and materiality means that E&Y would not give a specific opinion on the systems from this. End of quote. Another paragraph, I again quote, and this is most damning. It is also important to be crystal clear about any review if one were commissioned. Any investigation would need to be disclosed in court. Although we would be doing the review to comfort others, any perception that POL doubts its own system would mean that all criminal prosecutions would have to be stayed. It would also beg a question for the Court of Appeal over past prosecutions and imprisonments. That is an internal document, report in the Post Office, which is publicly available, and auditors have discussed all this. Okay? Now, so the point then is, Ernst Young had considerable awareness of the issues, systems, and internal failures. So on 27th March 2011, they actually wrote to the management of Post Office. And let me just quote you from that letter, just 2 paragraphs. Firstly, they say, the outsourcing of Post Office Limited's IT function to a third-party provider, in bracket Fujitsu, creates a degree of complexity and difficulty for POL in gaining assurance that these are adequate. Next paragraph. We noted that POL are not usually involved in testing of fixes or maintenance charges to the in-scope applications. We were unable to identify an internal control with a third-party service provider to authorize fixes and maintenance charges prior to the development of in-scope applications. So there are no Fujitsu are pulling the strings, having unauthorized access to anything and everything. None of this ever gets mentioned in the accounts, in the audit report, none. That is the state of audit that we have in this country. So Ernst Young knew the failures of the system and the cover-up. They knew that the company did not keep adequate accounting records, adequate returns were not received from branches not visited by them, Post Office profits were inflated by the amounts fraudulently taken from postmasters. So questions. I taught auditing for many years, my lords, as an accounting academic. First thing you teach students is that if management asserts something, you try to independently corroborate it. The more you're able to corroborate something, more confidence you can have in something. So how on earth did Ernst Young corroborate what the management told them? Or did they just simply rely upon it? How did they verify income and profits, which had millions possibly, I don't know how much, loss of money given by innocent sub-postmasters and is simply taken by the post office? So EY knew that post office had suspense accounts. The existence of prolonged suspense accounts is an indication of accounting misstatements and possibly fraud. That is, I'm sure my noble Lord Palmer would agree with that. So they should have been put upon inquiry that something is wrong. And that went on for years and years. So how did Ernst Young test any corporate reconciliation of those suspense accounts? How were they persuaded to believe that no provisions were needed or to be made for any contingent liabilities, given that they had access to all the press clippings and everything? Okay, so there's an issue. So every year, Ernst Young gave the company its customary clean bill of health. And in the final 2 years, as I indicated, collected 1.8 million in fees. So as a sole shareholder of the post office, the government really needs to sue Ernst Young, because they owed a duty of care to the company at the very least, if not to anybody else. They've been utterly negligent. They've been a party to cover up. Government needs to have the Ernst Young audits investigated from 1999 onwards, not just 1 year, the whole period. What exactly were they doing? So I'm hoping that the minister will say, yes, that will begin tomorrow or next week or next month, but we need to be very firm on this.